Yeah, that's what you do in first grade. That's what we did.
All right, so
I was in that Miss Kel's class in person.
okay, so let's review a little bit about theorems. Like I say, you can, if you don't understand any math that we do in this class, there's another shot at actually doing well at this class, which is understand the theorems very well. If you understand the theorems very well, you can get a solid 2 just by just understanding the theorems. And without knowing the math, that's how crazy it sounds. Um, so one of the things I will tell you is the first thing I will tell you: the squeeze theorem usually is not. If you don't understand it, it's not end of the world, right? So squeeze theorem is it's fine. If you don't understand it, it's not big part. Second, the intermediate value theorem is must need to know, right? And I'm gonna repeating writing all those things. Let's just make sure you know all those things by heart. So the intermediate value theorem is the one thing that always 100% tested. So it's 100% tested. So you have to know what I meant. So if you don't know it, go look it up. It's a water bottle thing I was talking about a long time ago. The third theorem that we have learned is called the extreme value theorem. Basically, it just says if f is continuous, then it must have a minimum and maximum. That's it. But continuous between two endpoints. Okay, so that's what you have learned from before, all the theorems. Today we're going to talk about 4 and 5, but we're also going to talk about other things. So the 4 and 5 is the rule theorem. The rule theorem. Rule theorem. Which is what we're going to talk about today. And there's the mean value theorem. And that's also today. But before you understand the mean value theorem, you have to understand two things. On SAT, if they would ask you, they will give you a function and they say they want to find average rate of change. What does that mean? What is average rate of change?
Never mind.
No, you were right.
Oh, okay. This face made me doubt myself.
Well, what's the
Don't let other people judge you.
I'm just feeling like a pot.
what's the fifth one called?
The value
The fifth
theorem.
one. The what?
The mean value theorem.
That's not average value rate. Average rate of change does not have a theorem on it, but its average rate of change is always equal to FB minus F of A over B minus A. So average rate of change of f of x. So in this case, the mean value theorem, you have to know what's the average rate of change. Sometimes just plug in two values and then subtract the difference. Just looking for the slope. That's it. So that's within, we're going to say phi A. Phi B, this is within the mean value theorem. So in order to understand mean value theorem, you have to understand what's the average rate of change, what's the slope between 2 points. For mean value theorem, you also have to understand the second thing. It's instantaneous. I think that's how to spell.
We still don't know how to spell it. You missed an E though. That's for sure.
Like this.
Me instantaneous. Wait, instantaneous.
Good enough.
Okay, we're fine. Yeah, we get it.
I don't know. EOUS. Instantaneous rate of change. It's gonna be f prime of c. That just take a derivative, plug in the c value.
Oh.
But mean value theorem is basically those two things equal each other. But on your AP exam, sometimes they ask average rate of change. Sometimes they ask instant rate of change. Just take a derivative, plug in the value. The other one is taking the slope of something. But they all represents the rate of change. It's different type of rate of change. So this is a 5 theorem that you're gonna learn so far. That's constantly on AP exam. Especially this one, mean value theorem. Especially mean value theorem. But I want to go back and talk about the theorems and also definitions because, and here's the definitions. And we're going to talk about two definitions. We're going to say definition of. Did we talk about triangle last week?
Yeah. Continuous.
Yeah. So, and you're going to feel like it's really redundant, but you don't know how important this is. So I'm just going to rewrite it every day until you really have this memorized. Is basically limits x approach to a from the positive, a from the negative. This means limits, definition of limit exist. So this is exist. And second part is continuous. So this is definition of being continuous, which is first is f of a is equal to define. So f of a has to be a value. Two, limit x approach to a of f of x must exist, which is the 2 is on the bottom here. 3 is limit x approach to a of f of x has to equal to f of a. So in order to be continuous, definition continuous, then it's going to have those 3 conditions. Now, if you want to talk about differentiable is going to be limits x approach to a from the left of f prime of x equal to limits x approach to a from the right of f prime of x equal to each other. So that means slope from the right equal to slope from the right, so slope from the left. Okay, so that is must be those 3 things. Like I say, if you understand all the stuff, it'll be so helpful. Like, and you know how to deal with graphing, understanding things. You will get a 2 just without calculation, without able to do calculations. It's very, very crazy that AP exam is composed of. Now, do you guys remember when it's not differentiable? When is not differentiable? Good. Which kind of tangent line?
Vertical.
Vertical. So start with the vertical tangent. That means like looks like this. Like this slope is 10 vertical tangent, like this. That's a vertical tangent. That's also including in the cusp. But another thing that's super important is endpoints. We're going to talk about a lot endpoint today. An endpoint is never differentiable, ever. The third thing is people just call it sharp turn. And asymptotes, the vertical asymptote. And those are all those things that are not differentiable whole. I think all those, etc., etc. But majorly vertical tangent, endpoint, sharp turn, vertical asymptote, holes, they're not all differentiable. Are you guys comprehending or no? Okay, so this is the big part of the things. What are the definition that you need to know? Definition of derivative. So definition of derivative is going to be f prime of x is equal to limit h approach 0 of fx plus h minus f of x. Now this run requires some type of calculation, which is you need to know derivative of certain things. And or definition alternative derivative is limits x approach c of f of x minus f of c over x minus c. So I will keep on review this, but this is going to be something that is going to be including about 15% in your test. If you don't get the calculation, get those 15%. You only need 40% to get a 3. It's not that hard. This just without calculation. Now, if you can do half the calculation, you'll get a 3. That this is a big part. Understand the theorems behind it. Okay. We're gonna keep on adding to this, but this is probably as most organized that we can do. Yesterday we talked. Friday we talked about how to find what?
Critical numbers and
Extremas. Extremas basically compare the critical number and endpoints. There's some homework that you're gonna have to do today that is gonna be involved with those. Yes.
I have a question. On the last problem that we did on Friday, you didn't find like the y value for 2. Why not? Like.
Wait. That was a very weird value though.
Oh, okay.
I think. I don't know which question you're talking about. It was the one with the cusp.
Yeah, it was the one with the cusp.
Okay, yeah, there was a value for there. It's 0.24, negative 0.24.
Okay, so we just skipped it because like it was just a weird.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, we didn't skip it, but I did evaluate, but I probably did. I mean, I didn't do it that period.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's how do you find things. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in and we're gonna talk about rule theorem. What is a rule theorem? Okay, rule theorem is by a person named Michael Rules. You don't have to know the name, but I will say this O right here, give me good indication how to memorize that theorem is that O right there. Okay, that O is going to come into effect. I will tell you how do you memorize this. First, it has conditions. So what is conditions? Well, first condition says f of x must be continuous. Now it's gonna be A to B. Do you see that bracket? Bracket, that means including A and B. That means endpoint cannot be a circle. So even endpoints can be a circle, right? Open circle. 2. F of x must be differentiable. We already talked about differentiable. When it's not differentiable? Yep. Yeah, all those stuff. If you have any of those situations, it's not differentiable. Okay. Now, usually, I will tell you is all polynomial. So all type of polynomial are continuous differentiable and differentiable. Usually all type, x squared plus x, x cubed minus x, they're always continuous. So you just have to write down polynomial are continuous and differentiable. That's good for the first 2 conditions. When is not differentiable? When is not continuous? So for example, if we have rational function 1 over x minus 2, at 2 is not continuous, or tangent of x, there's asymptote, secant of x, there's asymptote. So all those things that has asymptote is automatically, and this absolute value x is not differentiable because why? because there was a sharp turn. Okay, so you had to knowing like where are those functions not differential and not continuous. That's another thing that you need to know. The third condition, which is very unique about rules, the third condition is as f of a must equal to f of b. If they don't equal to each other, the rules value does not apply. So what is the result? The result is f prime of c is equal to 0 between a and b. There is at least one c where f prime of c is equal to 0 between a and b. Make sure it doesn't including endpoints. So not including endpoints again. So not including endpoints. So that's pretty much it.
Wait, can I?
So that's Rolle theorem. And you're like, oh, okay, what does that mean? Well, that means this. First of all, let me illustrate to you on the graph. Let's just say if we have A and now if we have B here, this point and this point has to be the same height. And they had to be closed circles, right? Because FA equal to FB, that means the same output. Is anybody lost? Everybody's okay? Now, is this continuous and differentiable functions? There is no sharp turns, there's no asymptote, there's no nothing. There's continuous and differentiable the whole way. What do they mean? That means at this point here, that where you have a C, right? You have a C here, that slope is equal to 0. Does that make sense? Because slope is equal to 0 at this point. But that's just only if this function though. But why did I say at least one C? You can have a function looks like this. Why? Because this one's going to give you a C1 and this one's going to give you a C2. You can have multiple C's. Matter of fact, you can have infinite amount of C. How do you get infinite amount of C? Is equal to 0. A straight line, right? If it's a straight line, then or horizontal line, then that's gonna be automatically means all the C is gonna be f prime of s equals 0. So you can at least one C. They just say at least one C. That's it. And that's how you have to understand for this particular part. But not including endpoint. Please don't including endpoints. If you got a result that shows endpoint, then that's bad.
How is infinite?
You can have infinite if you have a straight line. If you have a straight line, then all the slope is equal to 0. So there are infinite amount of points between A and B. It doesn't matter how small they are. Devin, does that make sense? If you have a straight line, my slope is always 0 regardless of what value is. And that's a continuous differentiable function. So you can have infinite amount of 0 in this particular case, if it's a straight line. If it's not a straight line, you don't have infinite. But yeah, that's the worst. Now, when it's not working though, so this is a rule does not work, right? Rule does not work in what? If you have asymptote, but one of the most important thing is not differentiable. Rule not working when you have, even though you have A equal to B, you can have a cusp. Guess what? Because the cusp is not equal to 0. It's actually equal to does not exist. It's actually undefined, does not exist. So that situation doesn't apply. So you cannot say that's one thing that apply because it's not differentiable. So rule does not work in this particular case because it has a cusp. And cusp, there's no 0. You can say, wait, that's still 0. No, it's not. That is not undefined. Okay. F of x equal to x4 minus 2x squared. So how do I prove that find all values C where f prime of C is 0? So find C where f prime of C is equal to 0 and Rolle's theorem apply. So Rolle's theorem apply.
Is that a 2x squared?
Yeah. First of all, I can this down as f of x is continuous. Why?
It's a polynomial.
Because it's equal to polynomial. You're right. And you can list down to f of x is differentiable because also equal to polynomial. Polynomial is differentiable. Third thing is f of a equal to f of b. I don't know. Let me plug in. F of -2, I believe it's going to be -2 to the 4th power minus 2 times -2. That's equal to 8. And f of 2 is going to be equal to the same thing because that's an even function. That's still equal to 8. So all three condition works. You can actually find the C. F prime of x is equal to 4x to the cube minus 4x. Can I take out f prime of c is equal to 0? Yes. 0 equal to 4c times c squared minus 1. C equal to 0, c squared minus 1 equal to 0, c squared equal to 1, c equal to plus minus 1. Don't forget about plus minus and not just the math part. So you got to find 3 c's. They say at least 1 c, but you find 3. And because C is a critical number, you can solve for x too. I do usually x, but if you want to show it correctly, usually is a C is some type of critical value. Again, taking derivative set equal to 0. But that's only if the endpoint are existing.
Oh, it's -2 and 2 are the endpoint?
Yep.
Okay. I did not.
Yeah, because you had to establish that proof they are equal to each other first.
Okay. I didn't know that. Can you go back? I was lost too.
What is,
Oh yeah, I didn't forget to write down the endpoint, did I?
Yeah.
My fault. It was between -2 and 2.
what is, like, when it says 0 equals to something C, like, what is that outside of C, next to C?
F prime C is equal to 0, 0 equal to 4c. If I factor out, let's just imagine that's x. If I factor out as 4x, then you got 4x parentheses x squared minus 1. And you're going to set each factor equal to 0. And that's how you get 3C values. So there is micro rules. Fairly easy. Almost 50 years later, doesn't so micro rules. So micro rules is that way, and then almost 50 years later, 1763 instead of 1691. So about 45 years later, there's a mathematician named Lagrange. It's Joseph Louis Lagrange. You're gonna hear this a lot if you go into the math field. Is a French mathematician. And he take a micro rules theorem. He says, hey, I can make it better. How do they make it better? He tilled the paper. I mean, literally, he tilled the paper. I'm going to explain to you what I meant. No, that's my hypothesis. I don't know. I'm just making it up. So, and what I mean by he tilled the paper, he says, if F, so he says the mean value theorem, he invented a theorem called mean value theorem, which is that's 100% is going to be tested. It's a theorem you have to know. So mean value theorem basically says F is continuous between A and B. Second condition, F is differentiable between A and B because not including endpoint, so not including endpoints because endpoints not differentiable. And then that's it. You only need two conditions. Continuous, differentiable. It does not need it. The third condition. What's the third condition? The endpoint that you could show. It does not have to have that. And not only that, the result is going to be much better. The result is going to be f prime c is equal to f of b minus f of a over b minus a. Now let's go back. Look at this. That is the average rate of change equal to instantaneous rate of change. Okay, so if you pay attention, and that has to be between A and B. Graphically, what does that make sense? Kind of makes sense. And what I mean by he tilted his paper, when he moved his paper, like turn maybe like 20-degree different directions, then A and B no longer had the same height. And that just try to create a curve that's like that. Guess what? That's a curve that's continuous and differentiable. What does this mean? That means at this point, between those 2 points, you're going to create something called a secant line. And the secant line is f of b minus f of a over b minus a. And that is the slope of a secant, which is the average rate of change. Is equal to instantaneous rate of change is equal to this. At this point, I have some type of slope like this. Those two slopes are same. Does that make sense? They equal to each other. They equal to each other. How many people are lost?
slope at the top?
We don't know, but the slope here is eventually going to go through there. It's going to be equal to this. We don't care about what the value is. We just care about the slope is equal to. Now go back to Rolle theorem. The Rolle theorem basically FA equal to FB. That slope is equal to 0 because they have to equal to 0. At this point, the point is shifted. It's shifted like maybe higher to the right and lower on the bottom. Guess what? That slope between those 2 points, somewhere along the line, it's going to have the same slope. I'm going to create another situation that has similar slope. So this is a C, right? This C. So you can have something like this. Guess what? You will have 1C, 2C. C1 and C2 have the same slope. Confused?
No, I get it.
What does it mean?
At least 1C though. So at least 1C where f of b minus f of a over b minus a equal to f prime of c between a and b, not including endpoints. This has to be true. Okay, so let's practice a question on Rolle theorem, and I'm show you how do you supposed to look at those questions and how you're supposed to do them. So today you're gonna get 2 worksheets. One is this worksheet. It's called Rolle theorem. So this is the first worksheet that you're gonna get. Let's practice. Pick an answer. Now read the questions. Now for me, your homework cannot just write down C or B or A or D. You cannot just pick an answer like my gut told me so. You have to tell me the reason why f of x is not applied to Rolle theorem or g of x or h of x and why it is. You have to provide me a reason instead of picking an answer. On AP exam, it's really important that you understand the reason behind each question. This is only in rules, so this is not mean value theorem. This is only Rolle theorem. Which one applies Rolle theorem and why? And you can pick an answer, and you got to be able to tell me why if I ask you. You cannot just pick an answer. I think B looks good or A looks good. That's not a way to do it. You have to tell me why. Give everybody a sec.
I'll probably be wrong anyways.
It's not very well.
I'm gonna ask some quiet people. Trent, what do you think?
One A and B aren't equal, and the other two.
All right. I think it makes kind of sense. Kind of sense. Okay, Michael. No, Matten, what do you think?
G.
You are talking about C?
Yeah. Just like graph of G.
Only G? Why G?
Because F, the A and B aren't equal to each other, and then there's continuity on H.
But what G of X is though? Yes, Deborah. Yes.
Well, if it's Rolle's theorem, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be equal to each other. Endpoints have to be equal to each
Rolle's theorem has to be equal. To
other. Oh, Rolle's. Okay, I was thinking about Lagrange.
the mean value theorem does not.
Yeah, I agree. If you think about open circles, it can't be that one. And
Okay.
the other one, A and B aren't even equal.
Process of elimination.
Process of elimination is G only.
Yeah, but what G is though?
Because A and B are equal,
Wait,
and it's
just what-
continuous, and it's differentiable.
F is continuous, f of x is differentiable, and the endpoints equal each other.
Endpoint is equal to what?
0.
0. Good. So therefore C is applied.
That's what we're saying.
So you have to tell me the reason. You cannot just say, well, it looks right. I'm gonna ask you tomorrow if you pick an answer. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna say, hey, if you can provide me a reason, even you provide me a wrong reason like Trent did, which is fine. You provide me something. You back up with your reason. You cannot just tell me not. Pay attention to this question though.
Not work.
Oh, good. Somebody reading.
That's my bad.
And when you take an SAT, pay attention. Not. Like you have to circle that word like immediately. Annotate that immediately. Now that you're taking the SAT, if you want to get high score, the not is gonna be the only word that's really matters there.
They didn't score out in time, so I have to use my bad ones.
Huh?
They didn't give me score out in time. They're releasing the new score November 2nd.
They didn't give you a score?
Like I have other scores, but you know, like the one we took on like October 12th. They didn't get it.
Why?
I don't know.
November 2nd is Wednesday, right?
The day after. Due.
Wait,
Like,
which one is
will
it?
update scores. BYU.
Oh.
That is, yeah.
Okay, so which one do you think is the answer and why? You said C? Why?
Because graph number 2 has a vertical asymptote, so it's not differentiable, and then graph number 3 has a sharp curve.
Okay,
So
very good.
it can't apply.
That's the things what you had to provide if I asked you this homework, right? There's other things that you had to go through them all, and I'll give you as homework for this one. And I'm gonna show you there's another one for Ming-Bowie theorem.
Could you give us our homework now?
We have 10 worksheets. Yeah. Oh, this one was a long.
They both are not long. They both are 9 question long.
Tonight?
Huh?
Are we getting both tonight?
You should release them now.
Yeah, please, no, really, because I'm gonna sometimes.
Okay, hurry up. Can you tell me what is this?
Do not. Yeah, that's what I'm going with too.
The which 3 though?
Oh,
A,
the first, second,
B,
fourth.
and D.
There you go. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's gonna be kind of hard. There's no math involved. What do you think?
It's 30.
3 is correct.
Because of the horizontal tangent.
Not horizontal tangent, but the tangent that's really look like that secant line. It's gonna happen 3 times if you follow the curve.
There's 3 secant lines.
Not 3 horizontal tangent, but it could be one thing related to the other. So
What do you mean by 3 secant? Like, can you draw it?
Like a line of
Like, where is it on lines?
secant is between A and B, right? So that slope is like maybe 1/10 or 1/9. And then what happened is you're gonna find out when is that 1/9. It's gonna flow like this and gonna happen once and go like this and flow another. go back and go ahead.
I did buy.
What?
I'm back after being sick.
Did you take a test?
No.
Okay, you didn't take a test. Todd. Whitney didn't take it.
You're Whitney.
You are hyped so much.
Oh,
So
yeah.
bad.
So,
What happened?
okay, wait, why are there so many, like, is this for us? Because we're, like, celebrities.
Well, church use my room every weekend. They
Oh.
supposed to clean up, but to give them credit, they clean up every single time except this time.
I will not do this.
Well, you are a Christian. You're supposed to.
I'm gonna clean it, but then I'm like, oh, that's too much here.
You're a Christian, so you're supposed to
I'll,
help
like,
other Christian out.
I'll clean it.
I'm not even Christian, so I'm not cleaning that up.
Or did you get it?
What?
Is that a side?
What even is
It is a side.
What is this? Like?
Pokemon.
Oh, I don't know.
Why is he there if he's not there?
I don't not. I
He's not blind.
oh, I didn't. do
Zach, you look like you're gonna kill somebody.
That he pretended that he's not. But he does have a mental
Oh shit! What happened?
Oh.
No, I remember it's hard to like explain.
Oh my god.
Halfway, I'll get it done today.
It's one day.
You know, like, what did minutes do?
I'm in halfway.
Yeah. I know you like eat spring
I didn't know today's pajama day. Today's pajama day?
Yeah, I think it's like homecoming week or something. Because homecoming got canceled for the hurricane, so I think they're having the week again. I don't know.
I thought we already had pajama day.
Yeah, I think they're redoing homecoming week. I don't know. He thinks like I mean, that's kind of a side strategy. Like,
All right. Shh. All right. Shh. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna airdrop this to you. This is the last year's area and volume test. This one does not including shell method. Now shell method on the test, yes, it's gonna be a couple more question more on top of here. It's gonna be shell method only questions. You have to learn how to deal with that. But at first, just disk and washers. So why do we focus on disk washer? Because on AP exam, the only question is gonna show up is disk and washer. If it show up on multiple choice, it has to be disk and washer, cannot have a shell. So shell does not really apply. But I'm still gonna test your shell. So, but a lot of them are off-axis rotations. Off-axis rotations. You just have to set up only. I'm gonna airdrop to you, and you have to work through and make sure you understand everything. This is last year's test. You're gonna have a test very similar like this. But you have to figure out, you know, finding the area between the curve, off-axis rotation. There's different type of rotation. Everybody did the worst on this test last year. Huh? Every Thursday. But we are gonna move on to other topic by probably tomorrow. Oh, you are also gonna have to responsible for arc length as well. You guys remember arc length equation, right? Who's not here Friday besides Whitney? Whitney, do you want to take it after school or you want to take it now?
Take it now, bro.
Sydney, you want to take it after school or now? Now, okay. All right, I'm gonna airdrop this to you. You better start working. Make sure you know how to draw axis rotation first. So I'm gonna airdrop to you right now.
Yeah, water. Yeah, why did you decide that?
Guys, you should be working.
Can someone put it in the WhatsApp because I don't have air. I'm actually.
Shh. Who's need to take a test? That's only two? Okay. So work quietly because those people are taking tests. So this one is gonna be 1 for the X. Cross out the X. Otherwise it's not possible to solve. You're gonna have to sit up there.
Oh, what is revolving around? Oh, yeah. I was like,
Oh, why? Make sure to check with each other because you draw your axis rotation and you also have to draw. Should I give you an example how to do it or no? No, you guys got this? But you gotta make sure with each other, make sure you got the right answer. Don't think like my answer is correct. You have to double check with each other. Setup only, yes.
It's a house right? Got 11 with the radius or yeah. So when it's John, saying that. You said it's a 7. Oh wait, no, Texas is a 3.
Look at the arrows are
It's like a little, it's like a. I know. Oh, the lap breath. Oh my god. Some of the walkways go at 3 miles per hour. Yeah. Average for
This one only, this worksheet only, this test only does washer. Tomorrow I'll give you a shell. Shell should be easier. But you can also try to do shell on some of those questions, but I don't know if all the question applies. But just stick with this and watch it for now. Tomorrow I'll give you extra practice for sure.
That's what we're doing. Okay. Well, what are you?